どういう走り、100点の走り見せてくれるのかどうか。さあどうだ。来た。
Knock knock, it's Europe. No, they're not here to take over. They just want to sell some shit, like clocks, and guns, and Jesus!
Deja vu, I just been in this place before. Higher on the street, and I know it's my time to go. Going new, and the search is a mystery. Standing on my feet, it's so hard when I try to be me. Whoa.
Konnichiwa everyone, my name is the Fisherman and welcome back to the show. In this video we will look into Japan, or to be more precise, the Chrysanthemum Throne achievement. This is a relatively simple achievement. It requires you to unite the Japan region as starting as one of the daimyos. The Japan region consists of the 4 main Japanese islands, Ryukyu or Okinawa, and if it has been colonized, the Kuril Islands, which are on the top right of the map. If you start out as one of the larger daimyos, such as Hosokawa or Uesugi, this achievement will definitely be a lot easier, but I wanted to do something special, and that's why we're doing it with Oda, or also known as the Japanese Prussia. As for the contents of the video, first we will look into the opening moves and Unification Wars, then we'll talk about the national ideas again, the synergies, and in the end getting the achievements, you know, the final steps, sort of. But, well, you know, let's get going. So starting off with the game, first you do all your standard tricks, clicks and ticks and whatever. Let your 2 merchants collect trade in the Nippon node and in Beijing, since, as is tradition, our economy just sucks. Set your rivals. I just rivaled those who rivaled me, but you can of course choose to deviate from this path. And we will need allies. Most of the times Yamana and Uesugi will ally you. If, however, Uesugi refuses this is not a problem per se. Yamana is all we need in the early game anyway. We will also try to get a royal match with Ashikaga, who is the shogun at the start of the game, and keep improving relations with them, because keeping the shogun friendly will prevent a lot of seppukus and will prevent a lot of dishonor to our family. Japan is also pretty coalition sensitive as a region, just like the Holy Roman Empire. So you might want to set your merchant in the Nippon node to focus on improving relations. This will give you a plus 15% modifier to the set improvement. And again, to close the preparations off, interact with your estates. However, since we start as a one province minor, Oda, we can't do anything significant yet, apart from hiring a general from the Bushi, which is the nobility. So yeah, I suggest you get that one. Also, to maximize our chances of a good general, I like to turn my ruler into a general as well, because preferably we have shock and siege pips. But if your recruited general from the Bushi is already a god tier general, then you know this might not be necessary to do so, and you can try to extend the lifespan of your ruler for the monarch points. Then we will need to build up our military and our navy. The navy will also be an important component of this run, especially to fight against nations like Hosokawa and later on Ming. So my preferred way to go is to build up the force limit, and then we start out, since we start out with like 3k troops, just decreases to 5,000 or 6,000. As for our navy, the heavies are actually better to have than galleys. But yeah, since we're still short on money, we have to compromise a bit, so I like to build a heavy ship first, and then as time goes by and the amount of sailors recovers, I increase the galley amount up to 6. Keep in mind that a heavy ship costs 200 sailors and 50 gold to build, and the galley costs 100 sailors and 10 gold. After that, I suggest you just keep adding heavy ships to your fleet when you can, because those are better than galleys. Okay, so you know, that's a bit of the outline, the major preparatory steps. Declaring the first war will trigger the earlier mentioned Onin War, which basically sends the entirety of Japan into chaos. Well, which is a chaos from which you as a player will seek to profit. The main point of this strategy is that you want to sort of chain these wars together. So you're going to be at war most of the time. You will only want to peace out one war once the call for peace symbol appears. Why do we want to do this? Well, This allows us to fight as much wars as we can while trying to minimize the amount of aggressive expansion, and thereby you minimize the amount of coalitions that will form against you. You will get coalitions at some point, but if things goes well, you will be strong enough by that point that it doesn't really matter, so you can just beat them. They won't be a real problem. Okay, so now it's time to look at the Oda's national ideas and see what they have to offer. Unfortunately, since you will be expanding most of the time. We have a lot of land to conquer, so, you know, take stability hits, deal with other events, blah 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 blah. So, given those circumstances, I wasn't able to reach Admin Tech 5 and choose an idea group in the first place. And also, contrary to what you would see me do most of the time, I wasn't able to activate my Golden Age in this game because I couldn't get enough of the required objectives completed. But, you know, it's all good in the hood, it doesn't really matter that much. So if you are not going for the achievement per se, and I suggest you remain a shogunate once you have managed to conquer it. So you can exploit the shogunate mechanic, which allows you to have an unlimited amount of vassals. Arumba has made a video on this, so I believe he was the first one to actually notice this exploit, or well, you know, quote-unquote feature. So I suggest you check his video out, which I have linked in the comment section of this video below. If this is what you want to do, then influence ideas is essential to have, as is any game in which you plan on utilizing a lot of vassals. Since daimyos are also vassals, so having influence ideas is just really great. As you can see, however, Oda ideas are very military focused, which is great, of course, for that purpose. They're basically the Prussia of Japan, so you can totally go for the Space Marines, Samurai Space Marines, and take offensive ideas, which will first and foremost give you even better generals by adding another 2+1 pips on your leader shock and your leader fire. Or, of course, you could argue that your army, since it will already function quite well, and instead you would like to focus on having more manpower than quality. Quantity ideas or defensive ideas also a very good pick. At this point, it is a matter of preference, I think, since all these ideas groups will hugely increase the fighting potential of your army regardless. I mean, an argument could be made in favor of picking naval ideas as well, thinking out loud, so earlier or somewhere down the line in this game, since it is very important to be able to beat the Ming Navy, which allows your troops to transport wherever they like, and if you control the seas, then you can also use your boats, particularly your heavies, for naval barrages on the Ming forts, which will also help you, of course, you know, conquer the land and stuff. Of course, there is the option to play the colonial game, which is also pretty fun as Japan, which is a pretty viable strategy. In that case, you really need exploration ideas. Another group you could take into consideration is innovative ideas, since Oda also has a 5% technology cost reduction, and this stacks really well. Since with innovative ideas, since the tech will be expansive in general due to the fact that the institutions spawn in Europe most of the time, or at least some of the earlier ones like the Renaissance or the printing press. All those reductions and additional spreads that innovative ideas provides is worth considering. So additionally, innovative combines also really well with several other idea groups to give you some really good administrative policies, which you can of course utilize later on. So all in all, in my opinion, it is better to keep the Oda ideas after you have formed Japan as well. As you can see here, I've pulled up the Japanese ideas alongside Oda ideas for a comparison. So just pause the video if you want to look more into it yourself. All in all, I think that the Japanese ideas are inferior to the Oda ideas. I mean, apart from the 15% aggressive expansion reduction, which is really great, but I think those military ideas are just really good, and I don't think you should let those go. Either way, as you could see, I went bankrupt, so some people might claim that this achievement is easy as Oda, but I personally don't think it is. giving you a starting position and the fact that you need to take a shit ton of loans to finance all your armies and your fleets, and I mean this caused me some significant grievance. So in this run I went bankrupt 3 times if I recall correctly, but still I decided I wanted to show you this because first of all Oda is indeed very strong once you do manage to become the shogun and you are able to start exploiting the mechanics and stuff. But besides, I think that most players will run into troubles like this, so I think that it can be reassuring to know that this is part of the deal, which also connects to my Granada guide if you've seen it, or my EU4 philosophy in general. Your game can suck, but you can still achieve what you want to achieve once you become familiar with the mechanics and you feel confident in your knowledge of the game. So we're halfway there, living on a prayer. So yeah, the bankruptcy really sucked though, but although at this point it didn't really matter anymore. It becomes more of a nuisance than actual difficulty. Although all the rebels can become independent daimyos again, which slows your process. I even suffered from a civil war, which also is a huge tedious disaster, possibly game breaking. And because of all of this you are forced to hire more soldiers due to the lack of the fighting capability as a result of bankruptcy, blah blah. But this can bankrupt you another time, which I believe happened to me. So this even further delays the outcome, and it did end up breaking my country, so I had to re-annex Yamana, Shiba, Ainu. In the end you will need to fight the Ming though, because Ryukyu is their tributary, which is sort of the last thing you need for the achievement by this point, and we need it. So you better need to be prepared to make sure that you really have a large navy, preferably up to date in tech as well, because I sort of forgot that to do so, and Ming defeated my navy. Fortunately though I had already been able to drop my soldiers off on Ryukyu, so I did manage to siege it down, but still you have to keep this in mind. The achievement requires you to actually form Japan. However, as you can see now that we have Japan, the entirety of Japan on our control and are still the shogunate at this point. Otherwise you need to click the button so you can change from Oda to Japan, and the achievement will present itself, and you know, congratulations, you can now tell your parents and your friends that you did something with your life. So after this you're also in a really good position to go ahead and focus on either the colonization game. You can opt to colonize California, Alaska via Kamchatka, or move towards Taiwan, the Philippines, and finally Malacca, which will also give you the juicy trade gold once you transfer your trade capital there. The other fun thing to do is to conquer Korea and fight Ming for the Mandate of Heaven. So there's a lot of options. Either way, along the way you will also be able to pick up the other achievements that are available for Japan. Kirishitan Japan, Made in Japan, Sakakulo, and also all of the isolationist outcomes of these events that appeared during the game. Well, either way we did it folks. Japan has been formed, we went to all the effort, and we came out victorious. I hope you will have fun trying out a game in the Japan region yourself, and that this video was of any help. Since these videos, you know, they take quite some effort to edit, please feel free to provide some feedback in the comments and share them with your friends or whatever. My name is the Fisherman. Domo arigato gozaimasu for watching the show, and I'll see you on the next one.